Now we will see good manufacturing practices, or commonly called as GMP. As we earlier talked about GMP as well, that they are normally mandated by government agencies, and they would be based on scientific evidence that has been generated or known in the scientific field, determined by the regulatory bodies of any country, that would they decide that what are the known hazards present in food. For example, as we discussed, different chemical, biological, physical hazards that are present. So we can assess that what are generally available or present information about available hazards in food, and what are the levels at which they should be controlled, or what are the levels that they should not exceed to that level to avoid any hazards to the general population once the food is consumed. So these are the basic principles how they are decided by government regulatory authorities, and they would decide what are GMPs. Some of the GMPs are also related to quality assurance. As we earlier discussed about the quality control and quality assurance, and we said that quality assurance are on an organization level, a higher level activity in which we can make sure that quality control is properly implemented and followed. So as we earlier said that GMPs were food safety systems previous to HACCP implementation. So traditionally they have been used, but now we have got better system like HACCP, but again GMPs can be also used, and they are treated to be prerequisite programs to implement hazard analysis at critical control point. So they are still used as prerequisite program, and if an organization don't want to use HACCP, then they still can continue using GMPs. So they would be at least covering all the basic controls that are required at different levels within an organization to produce safe food products, or it can also be applied to other pharmaceutical or cosmetics products as well. So what controls the GMP would be looking at, they are normally raw materials. For example, we have to look at all different kinds of control that can be applied to raw materials so that they do not lead to any hazard in the final product. So maintaining the quality of raw material or ingredients or packaging material. So we have to look at all possible hazards in these areas, and then we have to look at how we can eliminate those hazards. It also looks at other things such as plant facilities or the manufacturing premises, the facility that are available, employees which are working in a specific working environment, equipments which are used for production, processing, distribution, or sale of such food, cosmetics, or pharmaceutical products. It also looks at operations as well, and also environments. So all these factors, as I said, right from the raw material towards equipment and overall environment, that would affect the quality of food and the safety of food as well. So GMP systems would look at all the controls that can be applied at all these levels, as I took the names of them here. Some of the components of GMP, they are far more detailed, but just to summarize that what are the different components of GMP, they are GHP, good hygiene practices. So these GHP actually would be covering all the hygiene related controls that must be applied in a processing area where the food safety hazards can be minimized. The second control is good personal practices. This involved all the personnel that are involved in production and looking at, for example, at whether they are carrying any infectious disease or not, whether they are having all the hygienic habits that must be followed in a processing area. Then good veterinary practices. This is another element of GMP. For example, we have to deal with animals which are healthy, fit, and clean. They are not contagious. They are not containing any disease. They are not posing any threat to the end user in the form of a product that has to be sold in the market. Similarly, we have good sanitary practices as well. This is one element of GMP that talks about all the sanitation of the environment in which food or other products are manufactured. Another element is good raw material practices. This includes every control related to raw material. For example, some of the considerations are that it should not contaminate the food. There should be no cross-contamination between raw and cooked food or within raw foods. Then they should be properly stored. Then air, humidity, ventilation, or the storage condition are properly maintained for these raw materials so that they do not pose any hazard once the final product is made. It is manufactured, it is sold, and then until it is consumed, they should not pose any threat or hazard. And then the last element of GMP is good environment practices. So it includes all the control that we can apply to the environment, surrounding environment in which the food is produced, sold, distributed, or consumed. So these are some of the elements of good manufacturing practices and some of the consideration that we have to make for good manufacturing practices in any processing plant, whether it involves food, pharmaceuticals, or cosmetics.